I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. This is the Eachine EV100, and it is a new, kind of unbelievably low-priced FPV goggle from Eachine. And you're all hoping it's a fat shark killer, but it's not. Stay tuned. I have to confess that this is the second time I have recorded this. I just spent 35 minutes trying to do a fair and balanced review of this goggle, and at some point I just kind of ran out of steam and said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to tell you what I think. And I think that there are positive things to say about this goggle. There are a few things that Eachine did that I hope more people do. But ultimately, I think this goggle is really crippled, with apologies to any cripples out there, crippled by a few decisions that Eachine made, and I don't recommend that you buy the goggle. I usually beat around the bush for a long time before I get to my recommendation at the end, so that you guys will watch the whole video, and I'll get that sweet, sweet ad revenue. The longer you watch, the better it is for me. I don't know if you knew that, but I just got to get right to the point. I don't think this is a goggle that you should spend your money on, and I'll tell you why. The 28-degree field of view on these screens means that the image that you see when you're flying is so freaking small. I just feel, I feel bad saying that because I fly with Dominator HD2s, which have a 50-degree field of view. Massive screen, so big. In fact, some people say it's too big. They don't like having to kind of look around like a movie theater to see their OSD or to see objects in their peripheral vision. And I fly with the Dominator HD3s, which have a 42-degree field of view, I'm pretty sure, which is a little bit of a smaller screen, but still pretty freaking big. And when I go down to something like an Attitude V4 or Commander with, I think it's something like a 32 or 33-degree field of view, I struggle a little bit with that small image because, as you might expect, the smaller the image you're looking at, the less detail you can see. Resolution is one part of an image's detail, right? If you think about the Dominator SE, which was a goggle, a limited edition goggle that Fat Shark made, which had a 640 by 480 resolution screen, but a huge 50-degree field of view. That was a case where the screen was so big that it didn't have enough resolution. You could kind of see the pixels. The Dominator HD2 is 800 by 600 resolution by comparison. But then there's the other side of the coin, which is where the screen is so freaking small that even though it's got high resolution, and these goggles do have high resolution, kudos to Eachine for the resolution. It's a 720 by 540 resolution. It's a good looking image. It's reasonably crisp. It's reasonably detailed. But it's just so freaking small. It's like looking at a postage stamp. And that's one of the things, that's the major thing that I think really kills these goggles for me. As you'll see, I actually could not properly fly with these goggles because of two other things that are wrong with them. But as everybody else I gave them to, and I gave them to a few other pilots to try and get a second opinion, make sure I wasn't just being spoiled by my great big goggles. Everybody I gave them to said, are you kidding me? No way, I can't fly with this. Now, I said that I couldn't properly fly with the goggles. There's two other reasons that I couldn't do that. The goggles come with built-in adjustment of the diopter. So if you have glasses, and if your prescription is between -4 and +1 diopter, you don't actually need any kind of like diopter insert like Fat Sharks have in order to have the image be clear. You just turn this little knob here and it adjusts them forward and backward so you can get it to be in focus. And that's actually great. I commend Eachine for doing that. But there's a but. What if you have a prescription that's more than that? My prescription is like -6.75 diopter. So when I put these on my face, I can't get them to be in focus no matter what I do. I can't put my glasses in there. It doesn't work. And I can't put my Fat Shark diopter inserts in there because, as you can see, there's no cutout. There's no little slot for that to slide in. And when I saw that, I was like, what are you doing, Eachine? I mean, great. Like, how much would it have cost you to put that in your mold to let the diopter slot be there? I don't know. But so I can't actually use these goggles because even on the maximum -4 setting, I still don't see a clear picture. and I can't use them with my inserts, not without modification. Certainly get some tape or something and stick it on there. And there you go. The other sort of major thing that really bugs me about these goggles is that they don't have proper diversity. They have antenna diversity. Now, antenna diversity it's BS marketing diversity. What it means is that we put 2 antennas on this thing so that you think it has diversity, but in no real practical sense does it actually have diversity. Proper diversity means that you have 2 receivers and 2 antennas. Each receiver goes to a different antenna, and whichever antenna has the strongest signal, the other one shuts up and stops receiving, or stops passing the signal through, and the one with the strongest signal gets the signal through. And what that means is that the 2 antennas coverage patterns are completely independent. So you'll have a directional antenna shining a great big spotlight over there, and you'll have an omni antenna kind of just listening generally in the adjacent area, and whichever one picks you up is the one you'll use. When you take those 2 antennas and you connect them to the same receiver, let's just sum it up by saying that they interact in unwanted ways. And in fact, when I did a test of the Fat Shark NextWave diversity module, which is antenna diversity, it actually did worse than the Fat Shark NextWave non-diversity module. So if I had these goggles, I would not actually, do your own testing, see what you think, but I wouldn't actually run them with a directional and an omni here. I'd get a good omni, something like a Triumph or a Pagoda or an Axie, or the new Vaz Ion antenna, I think, is a very good one for goggles. I would put the good omni on one side, and I would get a dummy load, and I would put it on the other side, and I would try that out and see if that was not, in fact, better than having a directional and an omni, like if you had real diversity on the goggles. There was one other thing, though, that killed this for me, and that was when I did range testing on the goggles. The range testing results I got were so bad that I conclude that the goggles must be defective. My specific goggles must be defective. What I mean by that is, as soon as I took off, even sitting on the ground before the test started, these goggles were kind of glitching out. And I had 3 other sets of goggles. I had a LaForge, I had a TrueD, and I had Attitude V4 sitting there going into the same DVR. And I thought, well, gosh, is my cable loose or something? I checked everything. I changed the antennas. I changed the cable. I even looked in the goggles to see if the DVR was having some kind of a weird issue. And they're just, none of that. It's just the goggles were just not picking up signal. Even to the point where I landed and I was 20 or 30 feet away from myself, and they just weren't, it was just complete black screen. And it wasn't every time. Sometimes I would power them up and it would seem to be okay, but it was really inconsistent, and I just couldn't get a good test result out of it. So despite the fact that there are some things about these goggles that I think Eachine did right, and I don't hate the build quality. The build quality is okay. The switching channels is fine. The interface is okay. It doesn't have a DVR, but okay, so you save money. It has a USB port on the side, so you can use a USB power bank to power it. That's really slick. There's many things about it I like, but at the end of the day, I just think it's a really bad goggle. The actual image it shows you is not really adequate for flying. Yes, I know there's some of you out there who cut your teeth on Fat Shark teleporters with a 320 by 240 resolution screen. Yes, you can fly with them. And if you're somebody who already spent $100 on them, gosh, more power to you. More power to you. Get in the air, happy flying, have a good time. But if you haven't spent money on these already, I don't think you should. I think you should go... I think you should get, I had to actually go to my own website to remind myself what the model number was. But over on my website, fpvknowitall.com, I have the ultimate FPV shopping list where I try and help you cut through all the not knowing what to buy and figure out what kind of things you can buy that you'll be happy with. And the cheapest worth having FPV goggle/box that I recommend is the Eachine VR-D2, which you can get now from Amazon for $115. Or you can get from Banggood for freaking $80. And let me be clear, the Eachine VR-D2 also has some issues with it. If this was a review of that, I would find things to pick apart. But at the end of the day, for a price of 80 to 115 bucks, I think you will be able to fly with it. I think you will have an OK experience, be able to see where you're going. And I just don't feel like that's true for the teeny tiny 28-degree field of view screen on these goggles. Never mind all the other things. And the fact that the ones I got, if I had got these goggles, I'd be sending them back because I feel like they're defective. So that is going to bring us to the end of this review. And on the way out, I want to acknowledge a few things that a few of you are going to be mad about. One of the things you're going to be mad about is you're going to feel like I didn't give the goggles a fair shake because I didn't talk about, features and other things. And the bottom line is that if I very seldom just say, I don't think anybody should buy this product. But it's kind of how I feel about this. And since that's how I feel, there's not any point wasting your time telling you about how to change channels and race mode and all the other stuff that the goggles do. The other thing that some of you are going to be mad about is that I'm reviewing the goggles when, as I said, and in case you missed it, somebody's going to be calling me out in the comments. As I said, I didn't fly the goggles. The reason I didn't fly them is because that I can't get a clear image on the goggles because they don't take the diopter inserts and my glasses don't work with them, and the internal adjustment isn't enough for my vision. I did put them on my face, and I did put a copter up and kind of limp it around a blurry looking field. I can see how small the freaking image is. I've flown with goggles like 30-degree and 32-degree field of view and struggled with them. So I feel comfortable in my conclusion that the smaller image is not good. And I also got second opinions from other pilots who I know and trust. So I don't feel like that's an uninformed decision. But you can be mad about it if you want to. There you go. That's the end of this review. The EV100 is not the fat shark killer that every time a cheap goggle comes out, people say, oh, finally, someone has released a goggle that shows that fat sharks are horribly overpriced. And it's $100, $150, and it's got a lot of things wrong with it. Maybe fat sharks aren't that overpriced. Maybe they're a little overpriced. Thanks for watching. Happy flying.